All right, let's talk about the gold standard. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Economics, right? But stick with me because this is not your average textbook lesson. This is a story that kicks off with ancient gods, takes a detour through a science lab, and ends with the entire global financial system getting turned on its head. So yeah, let's get into it.
To really get our heads around why humans are so obsessed with gold, we have to start somewhere that feels a million miles away from Wall Street. For the Inca Empire, you see, gold wasn't money. No, it was something way more profound.
Okay, let's dive right in here. We're not starting in a bank vault. We're starting in the heart of the Inca Empire. For them, gold was a direct connection to their most powerful deity, the sun god, Inti. They literally believed it was his physical essence, right here on Earth. So think about that for a second. While Europeans were hoarding gold as a measure of wealth, the Inca saw it as a measure of spiritual power. You wouldn't buy bread with it, you'd use it to decorate temples or for the emperor, who was considered a living god. And this kind of makes you wonder, right? Out of all the elements on the periodic table, why this one? Why has gold always had this hold on us? Well, the answer isn't just because it's shiny and beautiful. A huge part of gold's value is rooted in its surprising physical nature, in plain old chemistry and physics. I mean, look at this. Gold has this incredible combination of traits you just don't find anywhere else. For starters, it doesn't rust or tarnish, ever, which means a piece of gold from 1,000 years ago looks pretty much the same today. It's super easy to work with. You can hammer it into a sheet so thin you can see through it, and yet it's also incredibly durable. And what's really wild is how these anciently recognized properties are critical to our most modern technology. Because gold is biocompatible, meaning it doesn't cause a reaction in the human body, we use it in things like dental fillings and medical implants. And because it's a fantastic conductor of electricity, it's absolutely essential for the sensitive electronics in, the phone or computer you're probably watching this on right now. So it has this real fundamental value built right into its atoms. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on why gold is so special, both culturally and physically, we can finally get to the big question. How on earth did humanity decide to build the entire global economic system on top of it? So here's the basic idea, stripped down to its core. Under a gold standard, the paper money in your wallet isn't just paper. It's basically a claim check. It's a promise from the government that the bill you're holding is worth a specific, guaranteed amount of actual physical gold. And here's how that promise actually worked in practice. First, a government would set a price, say $20.67 an ounce. Then, they'd issue paper currency based on the gold they had in their vaults. And the crucial part is you, as a citizen, could theoretically walk up to a bank and demand to swap your paper money back for that cold, hard, physical gold. This created enormous confidence. Your money was, quite literally, as good as gold. Now, this system didn't just pop up overnight. It actually started by accident. Yep, in 1717, Sir Isaac Newton, yes, that Isaac Newton, was in charge of Britain's mint. He set the price of silver too low compared to gold, so everyone started trading in their silver for gold. Whoops! Britain was suddenly on a gold standard. As the British Empire grew into a global powerhouse, other nations wanted in on the action. By the late 1800s, it was the bedrock of the entire international financial world. But here's the thing. This system, this whole fortress of stability, was built with a rigid, unforgiving, and ultimately fatal flaw. And that flaw was about to be exposed in the most catastrophic way imaginable by the Great Depression. So here's the paradox, right? The very thing that made the gold standard so strong was also its greatest weakness, its inflexibility. On one hand, it was fantastic at preventing governments from just printing money out of thin air and causing a runaway inflation. But on the other hand, it tied their hands completely when they desperately needed to act. When the Great Depression hit, economies were just in a free fall. The obvious thing to do was to pump more money into the system to get businesses hiring and people spending again. But countries on the gold standard couldn't. They were trapped by what economists now call the golden handcuffs. They had to just sit and watch their economies crumble because every single dollar had to be backed by a chunk of gold, and there just wasn't enough gold to go around. And the evidence here is just stark. You don't even have to squint to see it. Pretty much all economic historians agree on this point. The countries that broke free from those golden handcuffs first, the ones that abandoned the gold standard early, like Great Britain, they recovered from the Depression way faster than the countries that stubbornly held on.
And that painful realization, it forced a complete global rethink. It was the beginning of the end for one era and the dawn of the monetary system that we all live and breathe today. Now, there was a kind of limited comeback after World War II. The US dollar was still pegged to gold, and all other major currencies were pegged to the dollar. But the big final moment came in 1971. President Richard Nixon got on television and announced that the US was closing the gold window, officially cutting the final tie between the dollar and gold. And just like that, the gold standard was over. This threw us into the age of what's called fiat currency. That's the system we have now. The value of a dollar, a euro, or a yen isn't based on a shiny pile of metal sitting in a vault somewhere. Its value comes from one thing and one thing only: our collective trust and faith in the government and the central bank that issues it. Which, when you think about it, brings us full circle. We don't anchor our money to gold anymore, but our fascination with it, as a safe investment in uncertain times, as a symbol of luxury and power, as something of just pure enduring value, that seems just as strong today as it was for the Incas, who saw it as the sweat of a god. The standard may be gone, but the power of gold remains. So what do you think that says about us?